The rain fell hard that evening, turning the streets of Varan City into rivers of mud. The alien citizens hurried indoors, shutting their doors and windows. They didn't want to be outside near the old stone wall when darkness came. The wall stood in the middle of the city like a scar. It was older than the city itself, older than the oldest alien alive. No one built it, or so the story said. It had always been there. Stones were black and smooth, and in the center was a round hole, big enough for a man to step through. The hole was pure darkness. It did not reflect light, seemed to drink it. Every alien in Varan knew the rule: never go near the hole and never ever go inside. They called it the Death Gate. The stories were endless. Some said the hole led to another dimension full of creatures that would eat you alive. Others said it was a prison, and anyone who entered became part of whatever lived inside. But the truth was simpler and scarier. Anyone who entered never came back. No bones. No screams. Nothing. That was why the aliens stayed far away, even in daylight. No guards were needed. Fear was the only guard the hole needed. But that night, in the heavy rain, a human stood before it. His name was Daniel. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and soaked from head to toe. His boots sank slightly into the muddy street. The rain ran down his face, but his eyes were fixed on the black circle in the wall. From the shadows of nearby buildings, alien eyes peeked at him. Whispers moved through the air like nervous birds. "What is he doing?" one voice murmured. "He's not from here. He doesn't know the rule," another hissed. "No, I think he knows," said an older alien with trembling hands. Daniel's jaw tightened. He had heard the warnings all week. Every time he asked about the hole, the aliens would turn pale and change the subject. Some laughed nervously. Some walked away. Only one person had spoken to him honestly about a young alien girl named Lyra. She had told him in a whisper, "If you enter, you will die. Please, don't be stupid." Now, Lyra stood in the rain behind him. Her small frame shivered in the cold, but not from the rain. She was terrified. "Daniel, stop," she said, stepping closer. Her voice shook. "You don't understand. This is not a place for bravery. It's a place for fools to die." Daniel turned his head slightly. The rain dripped from his hair into his eyes, but he didn't blink. "That's why I have to go," he said quietly. Lyra's large, luminous eyes widened. "Why?" He didn't answer. Instead, he stepped closer to the hole. The black circle seemed to breathe, its edges shifting slightly, like the surface of deep water. There was no sound from inside, only an endless silence that felt heavier than the rain around them. The crowd watching from the shadows grew. More aliens pressed against windows or peeked from doorways, their hearts pounding. Had never seen anyone get this close before. Human. An elder alien shouted from under a covered porch. His voice was deep and cracked with age. "Step away. Your death will curse us all." Daniel ignored him. Lyra ran to his side and grabbed his arm. "You're insane," she said, her voice breaking. "No one comes back. Not warriors, not hunters. Not even the priests who thought they could bless the place. They all vanish." Daniel looked down at her hand, gripping his arm. "Maybe I won't vanish," he said. "Maybe I'll find out why." Lightning flashed, turning the wet stones of the wall into a gleaming black mirror. For a heartbeat, it looked like the hole was deeper than the wall itself, like it went on forever. Daniel stepped forward until his boots were inches from the edge. The darkness inside the hole seemed to reach toward him, pulling at him without touch. The rain hitting the ground around him suddenly sounded far away. He took a deep breath. "You don't have to do this," Lyra whispered. Her voice was almost lost in the storm. "Yes, I do." Then Daniel closed his eyes. The watching aliens held their breath. No one dared speak. Even the rain seemed quieter now. With one step, he crossed the line. His foot touched the blackness. It didn't feel like air or stone, it felt like nothing. And yet everything. Cold rushed up his leg, wrapping around him like ice water. His stomach twisted. He felt like he was falling even though his feet were still moving. And then he leaped. For the briefest second, Lyra saw him swallowed whole. No sound, no flash, just gone. She stood frozen in the rain, her fingers curled around empty air. Where? His arm had been bought behind her. Someone whispered, "The human is dead." But deep in her chest, Lyra wasn't sure. Something about the way Daniel had looked at the hole. Something told her he might come back. If he did, nothing in Veron would ever be the same. Daniel's leap felt like it lasted forever. There was no falling. No wind, no light, just a weightless drift in total blackness. Then, suddenly, his boots hit solid ground with a heavy thud. He opened his eyes. The first thing he noticed was the air. It was thick, damp, and buzzing with a strange static that made his skin tingle. It smelled metallic, like rusted iron and wet stone. There was no real darkness here, but no real light either. The walls around him glowed faintly, not from lamps, but from thin blue lines that ran like veins through the black stone. They pulsed. Slowly, like something alive, Daniel crouched and touched one of the glowing lines. The wall was warm, almost like skin. Dash! As his fingertips pressed into it, the light under his touch brightened for a heartbeat, then dimmed again. From somewhere, deep inside the corridor, something breathed. It wasn't human. It wasn't even animal. Sound was slow, wet, and powerful, like a giant sleeping underwater. Daniel's hand slid to the side of his head, pressing the small earpiece he wore. Static crackled on, then a voice. "Daniel." It was Lyra's. Voice soft and trembling. "I can still hear you." He froze. That shouldn't have been possible. The hole was supposed to cut all contact. "You're already past the point of no return," she whispered. "If you can hear me, turn back." Daniel smiled faintly in the half-light. Too late for that. He moved forward, his boots echoing faintly on the smooth floor. The corridor didn't feel like a tunnel carved into rock. It felt like it had grown here on its own. The walls curved slightly inward, as though he was walking inside the ribcage of some giant creature. Every few steps, the blue lines would shift. They didn't flicker like a machine. They moved, like liquid under the surface. It made him uneasy, but he kept going. Then he noticed something stranger. The corridor wasn't straight. It bent in small, gentle curves, and every time he turned a corner, he could swear the sound of breathing came from a different direction. He reached for his plasma pistol, just in case. A faint noise stopped him mid-step, not breathing this time, but a whisper at first. He thought it was coming from behind him. Then it slid along the walls, wrapping around him like smoke. It wasn't in any language he knew, yet it sank directly into his mind, making his chest feel heavy. The whisper grew louder. It wasn't a voice, it was many voices. Daniel shook his head and forced himself to keep walking. "Not playing this game," he muttered. The floor beneath him changed, going from smooth stone to a strange, soft surface, like walking on packed sand. The faint blue light here reflected off tiny fragments in the ground, glittering faintly with each step. He crouched again and rubbed a handful of the sand between his fingers. It wasn't sand at all. It was fine, ground-up crystal. That's when he noticed something buried just beneath the surface. He brushed the crystals aside and froze. A finger, not human longer, then ending in a sharp claw. The skin was pale gray with a faint metallic sheen. It didn't look rotted. It looked fresh, as if its owner had been alive moments ago. Daniel stood quickly, scanning the corridor around him. He had the feeling that he wasn't just walking into something, he was walking through something, a place that was alive and aware of him. His earpiece crackled again. "Daniel, run." Lyra's voice was sharp now, panicked. "What do you mean?" They whispered. There was no reply. Just the breathing again, closer this time. From the far end of the corridor, something shifted in the faint light. A tall, spindly silhouette stepped into view. Daniel couldn't see details yet, only that it had far too many joints in its legs and arms. Its head tilted, as if it was listening to his heartbeat. Then it moved, not a walk, not a run. Its feet barely touching the ground, yet closing the distance faster than he could track. Daniel aimed his pistol and fired. The blue blast lit the corridor for an instant. He saw its face, No eyes, no mouth. Only smooth, shifting skin with the faint glow of blue veins running beneath it. The blast hit the wall beside it, and instead of stone breaking, the wall absorbed the energy like a sponge. Daniel's stomach sank. The creature stopped moving and tilted its head again, as if amused. Then it pointed one long finger toward him, and every blue line in the corridor flared bright, flooding the place with cold, unnatural light. The walls were covered in bones. Some were human, most were not. The creature raised its hand higher, and the breathing he'd heard for so long deepened into a slow, thunderous growl. Daniel tightened his grip on the pistol. Whatever lived here wasn't just watching him, it was waiting for him. Daniel didn't run. Running in a place like this felt like an invitation to die faster. Instead, he moved slowly, one step at a time, keeping his pistol raised. The long-limbed creature stood perfectly still, watching or maybe listening. Then, without warning, it turned and glided deeper into the glowing corridor. Vanishing around a bend, Daniel's gut told him to follow. Not because it was safe, but because this thing wasn't chasing him, it was leading him. The walls began to change as he moved forward. The smooth black stone gave way to uneven surfaces, carved with thousands of small grooves. The blue lines of light here twisted into spirals, forming shapes that almost looked like eyes, mouths, or screaming faces. He kept walking until the corridor opened into a massive, round chamber. The air here was heavier, warmer, and carried a faint hum like 1,000 distant voices speaking at once. The sound wasn't loud, but it pressed against his mind, making his thoughts blur. The floor was covered in shallow water, rippling in slow waves. In the center of the chamber stood dozens of tall stone pillars. Each pillar was etched with glowing alien symbols that moved, shifting like living things. Daniel stepped closer to one. The moment his fingers touched the symbols, a whisper slipped into his head. It wasn't in his ears, it was inside his skull. They screamed, they begged. We listened. Daniel pulled his hand back, breathing hard. The water at his feet began to stir, and for a moment, he thought something beneath the surface was moving toward him. He glanced around and froze. On every pillar, the symbols were changing. They were no longer just lines and curves, they were scenes. And those scenes were showing alien warriors, priests, and explorers. Stepping through the same black hole he had just entered, he watched in silence as the scenes showed each of them vanish into the darkness, then reappear here in the chamber, surrounded by shapes that tore them apart in ways his mind couldn't process. The last thing in each vision was the same. Their faces wide-eyed, frozen in terror, and then silence. Daniel's pulse quickened. So this is where they went, he whispered to himself. But the pillars didn't stop. They began showing different scenes now. Humans, 3 of them. Different clothing, different years, soldiers, scientists, explorers. Daniel stepped closer. Eyes locked on the moving images. One soldier was firing into the darkness, his face twisted in rage. Another woman in a white coat was kneeling, speaking calmly to a creature Daniel couldn't quite see. And the third was simply walking forward with his hands empty, head bowed, as if he already knew where he was going, and then its human disappeared into a blinding flash of light instead of being torn apart. The whispers in Daniel's head changed tone. No longer threatening, almost curious. The long-limbed creature was back, standing in the water at the far side of the chamber. This time Daniel noticed it wasn't alone. Shadows moved behind it, dozens of them each, with the same tall, jointed body and eyeless face. They didn't advance. They stood there, silent. Then the whispers in his head sharpened into words he could almost understand. Human, you are not prey. Daniel's grip on his pistol loosened slightly. Then what am I? The water rippled as if the chamber itself was breathing. You are a key. A sudden vibration shook the ground, and one of the pillars near Daniel cracked open. Inside was not stone, but a hollow space filled with glowing threads of light, tangled like a web. They pulsed faster the closer he stepped. When he reached out, The threads pulled toward his hand like metal to a magnet, wrapping around his fingers. The whispers grew louder, so loud his vision blurred, and then images slammed into his mind. An enormous gate floating in space, surrounded by dead worlds. A star collapsing in on itself, alien fleets burning in silence. Through it all, humans walking unharmed where no alien could survive. Daniel yanked his hand back, stumbling. The threads retreated into the pillar, and the crack sealed itself. Shut, the long-limbed creature tilted its head. Follow, or die here. Daniel's chest tightened. There was no question in his mind. Now this thing wasn't just leading him somewhere. It wanted him to do something. But whether that something would save him or destroy everything outside he didn't know, still stepped forward. Because for the first time since entering the hole, Daniel realized he wasn't trapped. He was being chosen. Daniel followed the long-limbed creature out of the whispering chamber. The corridor beyond sloped downward. The faint blue light on the walls grew brighter with every step. The air was warmer here, almost humid, and the static that had clung to his skin since he arrived felt stronger, like invisible fingers brushing against him. The creature moved silently ahead, its tall frame swaying slightly, its smooth, eyeless face giving away nothing. Daniel kept his pistol ready, but didn't aim it. Every instinct told him this wasn't the moment to attack. Not yet. They reached a wide archway carved into the stone. The walls here were not natural. They were shaped carefully with perfect lines and smooth curves. Beyond the arch lay a massive open space. Daniel stepped inside and stopped. It was a circular hall the size of a stadium, but instead of seats or walls, the space was surrounded by giant vertical slabs of crystal, each glowing with a faint, shifting light. The floor was covered in shallow mist, and in the center stood something that made him grip his pistol tighter. It was another creature larger than the one who had led him here, much larger. Its 6 legs were thick and muscular, its body covered in plates that shimmered like metal. Its head was elongated, with ridges that curved backward like a crown. But the most disturbing thing was its eyes, 2 molten gold orbs that locked on him instantly. The long-limbed escort stopped a few meters away from the massive creature and bowed its head. Daniel realized this was no ordinary inhabitant of the hold. This was the Guardian. The golden-eyed creature stepped forward, each movement heavy, deliberate. Its voice didn't come from its mouth. Daniel wasn't even sure it had one. The words formed directly in his mind. You are the first in many cycles to reach this hall alive. Daniel tightened his jaw. What happened to the others? The golden eyes narrowed not in anger, but as if studying him. Oh. They were not like you. They were afraid. Fear is death here. Daniel's grip on his pistol tightened. What? Are you? Prison warden? Executioner? The Guardian's head tilted slightly. I am, the keeper of the gate, and you are its key. Daniel stepped forward. Gate to what? The Guardian's molten eyes flared in every crystal slab around. The hall lit up at once. They didn't just glow, they showed images. He saw alien worlds burning under storms of fire. Cities crumbling to dust in seconds. Creatures he'd never imagined tearing through armies. And above them, Alana's enormous rift in space, swirling like a black wound in the sky. This hole you entered is one of many, the Guardian's voice said inside his mind. It is a doorway between your reality and what lies beyond. We keep it shut. We keep them. From crossing, Daniel stared at the rift on the crystal walls. Them. The Guardian stepped closer, its huge frame casting a shadow over him. Hunters. The ones who came before us. They cannot touch your kind, but they can take all others. Daniel's breath caught. You're saying humans are immune? The Guardian lowered its head until its golden eyes were level with his own. Yes, only humans can walk where they dwell. That is why you are here. Daniel's pulse pounded. And what exactly do you want me to do? For the first time, the Guardian's voice carried something that almost felt like hesitation. I want you to open the gate. Daniel blinked. Wait, I thought you were keeping it closed. The Guardian's eyes flared again. It has been closed too long. They grow restless. It will break through. No. if you open it now on our terms, we can strike first. We can end them." Daniel looked from the guardian to the long-limbed creature that had brought him here. Its smooth face showed nothing, but its body shifted slightly, as if uncomfortable. Something wasn't right. "Why me?" Daniel asked slowly. The guardian didn't answer immediately. When it did, its words chilled him. "Because the last human we brought here refused. We had to remove his choice." Daniel's grip on his pistol tightened again, and what happened to him? The guardian's golden eyes didn't waver. "You saw his bones in the corridor, the first time since entering the hole." Daniel felt a spark of fear, not for what was inside, but for what might happen if he agreed. Because deep down he wasn't sure if the guardian was protecting his world, or preparing to use him to destroy it. The guardian's golden eyes dimmed slightly, and the long-limbed escort stepped forward, gesturing toward another archway at the side of the great hall. "The path," the guardian's voice echoed in Daniel's mind. "Cross it, and you will. Stand at the gate." Daniel followed, but every muscle in his body stayed tight. His boots echoed on the polished black floor as they moved into a narrow corridor. Unlike the others he had walked through, this one felt colder and more aware. The corridor opened into a legend. Daniel stopped dead. Before him stretched the bridge. It was a single, impossibly narrow strip of black stone stretching across a bottomless chasm. The air above the gap shimmered faintly, like heat rising from desert sand. Far below, there was movement. Not water, not wind, but shapes. Dark, shifting shapes that twisted like serpents in slow motion. The bridge had no railings, no ropes, no support. It was as if it was never meant for anyone to walk across. Daniel stepped forward. Testing the surface with his boot, it didn't feel solid. It pulsed faintly under his weight. As though it was breathing, the long-limbed creature moved onto the bridge ahead of him with unnatural grace, its many joints bending in strange ways. Halfway across, it turned its smooth face back toward him as if waiting. Daniel followed slowly, each step echoing faintly into the chasm below. The air here tasted different, bitter, metallic. The closer he got to the middle, the more the shapes beneath the bridge began to stir. Then, a whisper slid into his mind. It wasn't the guardian's voice. It wasn't Lyra's. It was something else. Something colder. Human. "Don't open it." Daniel froze mid-step, scanning the shapes below. One of them rose closer to the surface of the chasm, and for a moment, he saw it clearly, a massive, translucent form, like a snake made of smoke and glass, its body filled with flickering lights. Its head was shapeless, yet he could feel it watching him. The long-limbed escort ahead didn't react. Either it couldn't hear the voice, or it was pretending not to. Daniel took another step, and the voice came again, sharper. "They are using you. They cannot cross the gate, but if you open it, they will ride you through. Your world will fall." He gritted his teeth. "Why should I believe you?" The smoky shape swirled in place, because the last human they brought here was my prey. I tasted his memories before they killed him. He tried to warn his people, but they silenced him forever. A shiver ran down Daniel's spine. The bridge trembled suddenly. Not from wind, there was none, but from something touching it from below. Black, tendril-like shapes rose from the chasm, curling over the sides of the bridge like claws. The long-limbed escort ahead turned sharply, its smooth face tilting. As if annoyed, the guardian's voice slammed into his mind without warning. "Walk faster. Do not listen to the things below." Daniel's jaw tightened. "And why shouldn't I?" "They seem to know a lot about you." The guardian's reply was colder this time. "They are the enemy. They lie. They twist. They will tell you anything to keep you from your task." But as Daniel moved forward, one of the tendrils brushed his boot. It wasn't cold or slime. It was warm, alive. And in that instant of touch, dozens of images flashed through his mind. Alien cities burning, skies torn open, and the guardian itself, towering over a pile of bodies, human bodies. Daniel's breath hitched. The long-limbed escort reached the other side of the bridge and waited silently. But now Daniel wasn't sure if crossing was the right move at all. Smoky shape below rose again, swirling just under the surface of the shimmering air. Choose carefully, human. Step forward, and you open their war. Step back, and you walk away. For now. Daniel stood frozen in the middle of the bridge. Ahead, the escort was waiting like a shadow statue. Behind him was the hall, and the guardian's glowing eyes. Below, the whispering shapes circled like patient sharks. For the first time since entering the hole,
How do you, Matt?
Daniel felt it, the true weight of choice. If he went forward, he might be doing exactly what the guardian wanted. If he turned back, he might be abandoning the only chance to stop whatever was coming. The bridge seemed to pulse under him, almost urging him to decide, and somewhere far away. He thought he heard Lyra's voice through his earpiece, faint and breaking up. Daniel, whatever you do, don't trust them. Daniel stepped off the bridge. The long-limbed escort glided ahead without a sound, leading him into a vast cavern lit entirely by a pale, shifting glow. The air here was warmer, almost heavy, and carried a faint vibration, as if the rock itself. At a heartbeat, at the far end of the cavern stood the gate. It was not what Daniel expected. No towering arch of stone, no giant doors. It was a sphere floating in mid-air, as wide as a house, its surface rippling like liquid metal. Faint streams of light coiled around it, each one pulsing with an odd rhythm, almost like breathing. The sphere wasn't still, it turned slowly, revealing faint markings etched into its surface. Markings Daniel recognized. He had seen them before. On Earth, in a classified military briefing about a human archaeological site in Antarctica 1, that had been sealed and kept secret for decades. His stomach tightened. This isn't alien. The Guardian's voice entered his mind, smooth but firm. It is older than your world. Your kind were chosen long ago. Daniel kept his eyes on the sphere. Chosen for what? To be your weapons? The molten gold. Eyes of the Guardian brightened. To finish what your ancestors began. Before Daniel could respond, the air shifted. The long-limbed escort froze, its head turning sharply toward the far side of the cavern. From the shadows, shapes emerged, dozens of them flowing like smoke, but forming and unforming limbs as they approached. The same whispering beings he'd heard from the chasm below. The Guardian's voice roared in his head. They have followed. You hear, step away from the gate? But Daniel didn't move. The whispers were clearer now, not scattered or broken. They spoke as one. Look closer, human. This is not a wall between worlds. It is a prison, and your kind built it. Daniel's breath caught. Prison. For what? The whispering shapes swirled closer, forming a vague human-like outline. For us, they trapped us here because we refused their control. Your kind once ruled the stars. The Guardians were your enforcers. Daniel's mind spun. If that was true, then the Guardian wasn't a protector at all. It was a jailer, and humans were the ones who had put these beings behind bars. The Guardian stepped forward, his huge frame blocking the view of the sphere. Do not listen. They will twist the truth. Daniel pointed his pistol at the Guardian. Funny. That's exactly what they said about you. For the first time, the Guardian hesitated. Your people left you in the dark. You are here because your blood carries the key. Only you can open the gate and end the war before it begins. Daniel's eyes flicked to the sphere again. The markings, they weren't random, they were instructions. And in the center, faint but clear, was a shape every human knew, a stylized version of Earth's oldest known symbol for origin. His pulse raced. This wasn't just a gate or a prison. It was a message left by humans thousands, maybe millions of years ago, and now, both the Guardian and the whispering shapes wanted him to use it. Lyra's voice crackled faintly through his earpiece, distorted but urgent. Daniel, are you there? I found records. That thing you're standing in front of, it's human technology. He almost laughed at the bitter irony. He had come here thinking he was stepping into alien mystery. Instead, he had found a piece of his own species, forgotten past. The Guardian took another heavy step forward. The time is ending, choose. The whispering shapes swirled faster, their many voices weaving into one. Break the chains. Set us free. Remember who you are. Daniel's heart pounded. In front of him floated a sphere that could change the fate of entire worlds. Behind him loomed the Guardian, a being that claimed to protect. Around him whispered creatures that claimed to be victims. And in the center of it, all his own human heritage. Hidden for longer than recorded history, he raised his hand toward the sphere. The surface rippled at his touch. The markings lit up, one by one, as if recognizing him. And in that moment, Daniel knew the truth. The gate didn't lead to one side or the other. It led to something else entirely. Something neither the Guardian nor the whispering shapes had mentioned. Something that wanted out. The sphere's surface pulsed under Daniel's hand like a living heart. The markings lit up faster now, circling around him in bright, shifting patterns. The cavern shook. The Guardian roared, a sound that wasn't just in his ears but deep in his chest. The whispering shapes screamed not in fear, but in triumph. "Stop," the Guardian's voice thundered. "You don't understand." Daniel didn't pull his hand away. The rippling surface of the sphere folded inward, opening like liquid parting in slow motion. A blinding white light poured out, forcing him to shield his eyes. The vibration in the air grew into a deep, endless and then silence. The light faded. The sphere was gone. In its place stood a figure. At first, Daniel thought it was human. It was tall, wearing a long silver robe that shimmered with each breath it took. Its face was sharp, symmetrical. In its eyes were unmistakably human. But there was something wrong about them. They were too still. To knowing, the Guardian stepped back, its molten gold eyes dimming in what looked like fear. The figure looked at Daniel and smiled. Finally, a key that remembers how to open the lock. Daniel took a step back. "Who are you?" Smile widened. "I am what your kind locked away when they feared their own power. I am your inheritance." The whispering shapes circled the figure like smoke around a flame. The Guardian lowered its head. "You've doomed us all." "Oh, Daniel's?" Grip tightened on his pistol. "I still have a choice." The figure tilted its head. "No. The moment you touch the gate, the choice was made. The locks across the other holes are already falling. The others will follow." The cavern trembled again, and faint rumbles echoed far beyond its walls. From this place, it was from everywhere. Whatever was happening wasn't local. It was galaxy-wide. Lyra's voice cracked through his earpiece, frantic. "Daniel, readings just spiked across half the sector. What did you do?" He opened his mouth, but the figure raised a hand. "Don't answer her. She'll learn soon enough." The Guardian stepped forward again, towering over both of them. "Human, you still carry the key. End this. Destroy yourself, and the lock will return." Daniel's breath caught. It wasn't a bluff. He could feel it, the strange hum in his bones, the way his skin prickled. The key wasn't something he carried. It was him. The figure's voice softened. "Or, you could come with me. See what your people tried to hide. What they were so afraid of?" The choice cut deep. Destroy himself and stop whatever was coming. Or walk into the unknown with something that might be a god, a devil, or both. The cavern walls began to crack, thin lines of white light spilling through them. The long-limbed escort was already retreating into the shadows, its smooth face turned away, as if not wanting to witness what came next. Lyra's voice was breaking through the static now, desperate. "Daniel, come back, please. Whatever's in there, it's not worth it." He looked at the Guardian, then at the figure, then at the glowing cracks in the world around them. Finally, he lowered his pistol. "I'm not here to destroy myself," he said, "and I'm not here to be your soldier either." The figure's smile faded slightly, curiosity flickering in those perfect eyes. "Then what are you here for?" "To see what's on the other side?" the Guardian roared in fury. The whispering shapes hissed in excitement. Lyra's voice screamed in his ear, and then he stepped into the light. When Daniel's boots touched solid ground again, the rain was falling. He was back in Varen City, standing in front of the black hole in the wall. The crowd of aliens gasped. Lyra ran forward, her eyes wide with relief, and she saw the look on his face. He was smiling. But not the same smile she had seen before, because standing just behind him, in the rain, was the figure from the sphere, its eyes scanning the city like a predator studying prey. Daniel turned to Lyra and spoke softly, so only she could hear. "There, not what you think, and neither am I." The hole behind them began to pulse, and somewhere in the skies above Varon, something massive began to move.